Welcome back to Meet the Coach. Today we've got Coach Nigel Madison. He is the inside linebackers coach at Sacred Heart University. Our second Sacred Heart guy here in the last couple of weeks. Had Coach Napoleon on the other day. He was great. But I appreciate you jumping on with us.
Thank you so much for inviting me, man. It's just so exciting. I saw the platform. I was like, man, I want to do something like that too. Stepping out the comfort zone a little bit. So it's exciting.
Of course. And excited to have you on. And I mentioned you're at Sacred Heart. You've only been there for a handful of months now, right?
Yeah.
When did you get hired there?
So I got here February 6th, exact date.
2.5 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was, past the initial cycle stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're learning on the run, right?
Yeah.
You get there. When did you guys start spring ball?
We started spring ball, probably want to say third week of February. So I got here and we got rolling immediately.
Let's figure out the defense. Let's meet my guys. Let's figure out what the hell we're doing and let's go.
Yeah.
And you came from Oregon. I guess first, just kind of take us through your journey as a coach. Like, where'd you start and how'd you get to where we are today?
Absolutely. So I graduated from Concordia University in Ann Arbor. So my head coach at the time, after I graduated, he recruited me. He decided to step down. My defensive coordinator got put in the head coach role, and then he asked me to come join the staff as the defensive line coach. So I coached at my alma mater, starting off for 3 years, fell in love with it, fell in love with coaching, mentoring guys. It was a little bit different for me because I'm actually coaching the guys I played with, but it was still a really good experience for me. That opportunity led me to an opportunity at FIU, where I was a defensive line graduate assistant. Got a lot of knowledge, worked under a really good dude there, Jeff Kopp, and he just taught me a lot about the game and helped me kind of fall in love with the game a little bit more than I already did on the coaching aspect. Sure. That FIU opportunity led to Buffalo. And then that Buffalo opportunity, I learned a lot about recruiting, learned a lot about culture, learned a lot about having a purpose-driven kind of mindset. And then that opportunity, just constantly building networks and meeting people, that led to Oregon. And
sure.
It was an amazing opportunity at Oregon. I wouldn't take a day back ever. It was every day was just something new knowledge dropped on you every single day. And it grew me a lot as a young coach over that time. And then that opportunity opened up here at Sacred Heart for me to kind of run my own room and kind of be my own position coach and kind of implement what I've learned over time into these kids. So I had to jump on it right away. Got right over here.
Sure. Had you worked with linebackers before at any of those stops?
So my first stop was actually at Oregon. I was primarily working with the outside linebackers. Tosh McCoy did a really good job of kind of teaching me. And then after that, he kind of just took the training wheels off and was like, all right, go get it. Like, go get it. Like, you're here working with me, go get it done. Like, so it was really good for that because it put me in a good experience to understand how to present information to a room, how to teach guys, right? And then see and track their development on where they need to be and where do they need to go. So it was awesome too.
Yeah, we talked to a couple coaches lately who talk about like letting their guys, their QCs, their GAs, like, I'm giving them a chance. I'm gonna throw them in the fire right now and let them figure it out. And if they mess it up for 3 minutes, like, fine, I can, take it off from here. But like, that experience is so huge for you when you get thrown in the fire when it's really your deal, it's your room, and you really got to be the guy running it. How has that taught you then when you get to Sacred Heart and, like we said, you got 15 days, you're hired, and we start practice, figure this shit out. Like, how did that help you?
It was time to work. I grabbed my lunch pail, got my hard hat, and it was time to get to work. Couldn't take any time off, couldn't rest, just was more so just trying to get the kids as much information as I possibly could before we actually got to the day. And then we got to the day, and then it's like, all right, now I'm gonna put a little bit more on you. So like now every single day is a learning and it's a growth type of day. So I was really big on like trying to do that. And it was like every single day, the key component was trying to learn my room a little bit. It was been a little different for me at different places. I got to learn the kids a little bit faster. Here, I had to make sure I attacked it with that same mentality as, all right, I got to build the connection piece with my kids first. So like 15 days before we start practice, I got to get rolling now. Like, I got to build that connection piece. Yeah.
Of course. How much do you think all this D-line experience helps make you an even better linebackers coach?
I understand what the dudes up front are trying to do.
Yeah.
That was the biggest thing for me, was like understanding what the guys up front want to do, right? And then understanding how does that marry up with the guys that play behind them, right? So then understanding that everybody has a fit, everybody has a spot they need to be. So everybody needs to play within the set defense of the rules that we have. So that was the biggest thing that I had to like understand, and like I kind of got taught over time, was everything has to marry up. So I had to make sure I did a good job of coming in here and making sure I learned what everybody was doing, so I can make sure what I taught my kids married up to exactly what we wanted to do.
Sure. And, as linebackers usually know more than everyone else on the field, right? They got to know coverage. They got to know what the guys up front are doing, the guys behind them, everything. Whereas D-line guys, players at least, don't have a clue usually what's going on in the back end. The back end guys have no idea what's going on up front, unless it's part of a blitz they're a part of or whatever. Yeah. So it's, how often are you teaching them like steps, like from a linebacker's perspective, how often are you teaching them like specifics around what your D-line guy is doing? Or is it more so like hey, we need to marry this versus that, or we need to be in that gap when they're in this gap, we're twisting here, or are you talking like, here's why we do this as a D-lineman and why we do it now as the linebackers?
Yeah. So understanding, right, we're in a generation where a lot of kids ask why.
Yeah.
So everything I teach them has to have a why and a reason for this, right? So like when I'm talking to the guys, and I'm always overemphasizing, hey, we got to have great eyes. What do you mean by that, coach? Like, read slow, react fast. Okay, so understanding the game of football, yes, we want every single person in the gap. We want everybody in the right fit. Cool. But at the end of the day, the game is around getting the ball down, right? So a D lineman could get reach, and that usually doesn't happen here because we got an amazing D line coach and defensive coordinator. But a D lineman could potentially get reach, and now he's in your A gap. Okay, so what do you have to do? Your job's pretty simple. Go make them right. Yeah. Right? Go be a football player. Go earn your scholarship. That's what you're here for. So the biggest thing is understanding, like teaching the guys that, hey, listen, things can get a little bit messy up front. That's why I want you to take your time, read slow, then react fast, have great eyes.
Of course. What do you think makes you different as a coach, like than other coaches who coach linebackers?
Yeah, very passionate. I care a lot for my kids. I understand when to teach, and I understand when to like really get on them. I know that your kids can play harder when they know you care for them. And that was a big piece for me, is trying to get these kids to know who I was and truly get an understanding of who I was. So I think that kind of makes me different, especially my passion with the game, because I'm out there on the field running around, chasing them around. Hey, get to the ball, get to the ball, get to the ball, right? Like I always preach to them, effort erases mistakes. Effort erases mistakes. Effort erases mistakes. Nonstop. I'm like nonstop preaching that to them. So it's okay to mess up. Like, yeah, we don't want you to, but you mess up. All right, cool. Show me unbelievable effort right now. Show me unbelievable effort, and we'll fix everything else later.
I love that. Yeah. And obviously that works most of the time. It helps a lot. And like you said, we can fix the other stuff later. As I take the hell out of my desk here. From a linebacker perspective, and again, it's newish to you these last couple of years, but what do you think a lot of linebacker coaches overlook or should do that maybe they don't typically talk about or coach or teach?
Yeah, I think the one thing that I overemphasize, and I spent a lot of time on this spring, was footwork. Like just eyes and footwork. I think the biggest thing is kind of like what I said earlier. It's like you want to read slow, react fast. I think a lot of times guys get in bad situations because their feet are bad. They're crossing over. You never want to play the game with your feet crossed over, right? You always want the weight on the inside balls of your feet, right? Squeezing your knees, right? So you're in a good position to able to change direction wherever you have to, right? Then you have to have amazing eyes, because offenses do a lot of crazy things, right? They shift people, they rocket motion, they over motion, they do a bunch of things to get your eyes going everywhere. Yeah. And the biggest thing I got to teach them is understand what your progression is, right? I'm reading that down offensive lineman, whether it's the guard center triangle or the guard tackle triangle, to that near tight end, right? Whether the Y is off or if he's on, or there is no tight end. Then my progression can easily go from guard center triangle or guard tackle triangle straight to the back. Right. So understanding that, and then now I'm matching the flow of the offensive lineman, and now I'm matching the track of the back based on what run scheme.
Sure. What's your room like? Veteran? Like, you got some vets? Is it young bucks?
Oh, man, I got blessed, right? I got some guys that are a little bit older, right? I got some guys that are older, played a lot of snaps for me. Then I got some guys that haven't played a lot of snaps, but they're older. They understand the game a little bit, but it's still little nuances that I think as a whole room we all still need to learn, and we all needed to clean up. But I got some good guys. I got some older guys. I got some young, hungry freshmen coming in too, and some young, hungry freshmen that's going to be sophomores too. That's like fighting every single day to want to get in and get a rep and go show us what it's done. So spring ball was pretty exciting for that moment.
That's great, especially when you're hitting the ground running and it's not like you've been there, you've had that time to develop. Like, it's no, let's figure this stuff out. But to have a veteran group helps a ton with that. Yep. What does culture mean to you?
So I think culture is our advantage. I think that's what separates us from other teams that we play, right? When we talk about culture, this is something that I learned at Oregon, and it just stuck with me everywhere I went. Our pillars of culture right now is connection, growth, toughness, and sacrifice, right? I always preach to my guys, what's the biggest like connection you can have with somebody? That's love, right? That's the biggest connection you could ever have with somebody. So with love, what does that affect you want them to do, right? When you love somebody, you want to see them grow, right? In a positive way, right? And sometimes when people grow, right, that's not always easy, right? Because you can be hard on somebody because you want to see them do so good, right? So then with that growth comes what? Toughness, right? You got to build that sense of like toughness to be able to be like, all right, well, this person wants the best from me, right? Now to be tough, right, is going to come with something, right? You might have to do what? Sacrifice something, right? You might not be able to hang out with your friends because I'm trying to build that piece of being tough so I can grow, because my brothers who love me so much want to see me be successful. So I'm constantly hammering that in to my guys every single day and making them understand like, hey, these are our pillars of our room. This is what we believe in, and this is why we believe in it.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's good. That'll be something we clip and put out because I think it's great, like for other people to hear,
Yeah.
What, and I always ask guys this, and maybe it's a different kind of comment. We've talked a little bit about, I guess, already too, is like, what are you working on this off season? For you, it's, you talked about building relationships. It's getting in the room, getting to know the guys. For you personally, getting to know the defense, and then helping your guys get to know the defense.
Absolutely.
But is there anything specific you're going to work on, I guess, now that spring ball's over to start of the season here in August, like other late July, maybe even for you guys, but like, what are you working on to get better as a coach in this time frame?
So in this time frame right now, doing a lot of clinicking, learning from a lot of different guys, watching a lot of the practice tape from this past spring ball, trying to see things that we did well, things we need to improve on, things that I might need to bring into, things I need to overemphasize going into camp and summer training a little bit. So that's the biggest thing. I'm kind of like just trying to gain as much knowledge as possible before we get into the actual like season.
Sure. And then how do you measure your success? Like how do you look at, hey, I was a good coach this year versus I should be better this week was not my best week as a coach. And I'm not talking grades of your players. And that's certainly a way to, I guess, in a way, evaluate that. But how do you evaluate you and how do you get better?
I watched the tape just like the kids watch the tape, right? Like I was just watching the tape the other day and it was like a couple of clips where I wasn't running around. I wasn't getting on them right then and there. And that's something I challenge myself at because I want my kids to play at a high intensity at all times, right? That's what we want. Well, that means I need to coach at a high intensity at all times. Now, there is times where you have to take a step back and you got to teach. You got to slow it down for a little bit of them. But when you've done the teaching, right, and the kids know what you want, now it's time to crank it up and let's go 100 miles per hour. So, like, that's kind of what I'm grading myself on a little bit about saying, okay, listen, I got to be better here, right? And then even with my teachings every single day, the way I drill, the way I talk to kids, the way I'm coaching, the coaching points I'm giving them, every day it's a different way of saying, okay, how can I do this better? It's never just, that's good enough. And then my success is based off of, did I help my kids reach their goals, whatever it is? Whatever it is. I got a kid in here whose dad's a two-time all-conference All-American at Temple University. Was a linebacker, right? Like he's in my room, right? He didn't play a lot of snaps. All right, well, now we got to get him rolling a little bit to play a little bit more for our team. That's a goal for him right now. So my goal is to help him reach that goal every single step of the day. Like, so as long as I'm helping those kids achieve their goals, I'm happy. I'm happy. It's all about serving. It's all about serving leadership.
Yeah. How do you, you're recruiting different kind of player to Oregon versus Sacred Heart, right? Level wise and across the country, there's a bunch of different things. How do you, from a standpoint of recruiting, I don't know if you guys are a hard portal team or not, and maybe we don't need to discuss that specifically, but like, what are you looking for in your guys? Like when you're looking at a kid to recruit, what are the things that you look at from a coaching perspective?
So biggest thing I'm looking for, does he have a knack for the football? That's one of the things that's like playing this position. Some things are very instinctual. Like some things just can't be coached. Like you watch some of the greats play the game and it's just like, it's kind of instinctual how he does things, right? Next thing I'm looking for is contact courage, right? At the end of the day, you want a linebacker to be able to do what? Tackle, right? He has to be able to tackle. So like naturally right there, if I turn on the tape and the kid's turning his back to a tackle or turning to the side or always wants to be the second man in, never actually be the dude to deliver the blow and actually knock people back, then kid doesn't have a lot of contact courage for me. So now I need to go find somebody that's want to go put his face on people at all times. That's the kind of guy I'm going to going to look after. And then dudes that actually want to use their hands well, guys that can run, right? I think like when you're playing the game goes really fast. And like I said before, effort erases mistakes, right? If you got a dude that can haul and go get the football, I'm pretty happy with everything else. And then you're looking for guys that are smart and want to learn the game. And that kind of goes down the road in the recruiting process when you kind of get tied in on a couple guys that you want. Like those are the type of kids you want to get after, the dudes that kind of get a full understanding of the game, but always want more for it, hungry for it every single day.
Sure. What I went on this. What has been the best coaching advice that you've gotten?
Your process is your process. Something that stuck with me through hard times, getting out of COVID. I remember I was 3 months, no job, right? Just finished my contract at Concordia, 3 years out, no job, don't know where I'm going. Originally, like I'm going through from March all the way to July, I didn't have a job, right? Sitting, just working. I was actually doing medical training so I could pass meds at a senior living home. That's that's what I was doing at that time, right, during COVID. And I just never understood because I felt so like confident that like, man, I love this. Like, who would want a coach that's hungry and love this? And it was just, it's all in God's timing, right? And your process is your process, right? Your process isn't going to be like everybody else's. Your process is your process and it's special. So you got to embrace that every single day.
I love that. Your process is your process. I appreciate you jumping on with us. This was great.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys for having me.
Of course. Thank you.